Hey, Professor Williamson, how are you?
Doing well, Professor Mosley. It's great to be with you and enjoy all of our time together. I'm sure this will be fun. We're going to talk a little bit about soda pop culture and the creation of that class, and one of the first things that we're going to be studying. And I'll take this opportunity to thank you and to thank Professor Robertson. I mean, there was a lot of sort of thinking that went behind this basic idea, which was, hey, do you want to teach a one-credit global issues class? To which I replied, no, I don't want to do that. And then they said, it can be anything you want. And because I was in the private sector and worked a long time at Coca-Cola, I thought, what would be fun is I'm going to teach one class and I get to create any class that I want for one credit. I'd love to look at the idea of how consumer products are influenced by popular culture, and conversely, how popular culture helps to drive a lot of consumer product innovation and marketing as well. So that's sort of the thinking behind the class. And then once I threw that idea out there, you and Robbie and a lot of other folks were like, hey, here's an idea. Hey, here's an idea. So a wealth of opportunity to look at a fascinating sort of dynamic within the business world, which is how culture influences consumer products and how consumer products influence popular culture as well.
Well, yeah, and who doesn't really enjoy talking about pop culture and all that stuff anyways?
Right.
I mean, Everybody, no matter how hard you try, you get influenced by popular culture.
Sure.
There's always that person, I never watch TV and this and that and that. It's like, you listen to music, right? Or you do this or you do that. I mean, you have a whole, people need to see his office at some point, and maybe we'll share photos at some point. Just the records from Sprite, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Always one of those things.
So it is a really fun topic and an interesting topic. And there's all kinds of, when I sort of threw this idea out there and everybody started giving me examples, and we'll have Professor Robertson on here as well, Robbie. And you talk about somebody with some ideas. I mean, he threw out some interesting ones as well, things that everybody, that's just it. Everybody has, you throw out the idea of popular culture, and I call it soda pop culture because that's the industry that I come from, and because the first couple of ones that we're going to look at deal with soft drinks. But it is just sort of a fascinating thing, and the feedback I've gotten from the students in class so far, we're just 2 classes in, has been awesome. And the first thing that we talked about, because it was seasonally appropriate and that sort of thing, is this idea of Coca-Cola and Santa Claus. And I remember distinctly, Matt, when I was working there, that there was this tension. There's this belief out there that has been promoted certainly by the internet. The internet sort of exponentially promotes everything.
The great Abraham Lincoln once said, everything on the internet is 100% true.
Exactly right. Of course. And there is this belief among some quarters that Coca-Cola had some direct influence on the modern image of Santa Claus. In other words, what Santa Claus looks like now, this beloved character that we all sort of believe in and could recognize, was a creation of this soft drink brand. And so let me see if I want to share a quick picture just so so folks sort of know what. So I'm going to see if it'll pop up. Can you see that?
Yeah. Perfect.
So this is the slide that became the jumping off point for the first little case study that we're doing in the class. Did Coca-Cola create the modern image of Santa Claus we all know and love? So, and I'll switch back to us in just a second. But that image that you see there, which has sort of become the iconic image of Santa that we look forward to at the end of every year, and that which is adorned,
rosy cheeks, all that.
Yeah, yes, the beard, the big belt, the belly, and the ever-present ice cold refreshing Coca-Cola, right?
Because when I think Santa, I'm thinking definitely has a Coke in his hand.
Sure, versus something else, right? Yeah. There's no other sort of consumer product that over the course of time has just gotten that comfortable being in his hand. And then you see it on the packaging, you see it on the cans, you see it on bottles, you see it in advertising. so it became, no question, that it became the vehicle whereby the Coca-Cola company carried the fourth quarter of their business every year. But that's a different question versus whether they had created it or not, because when you talk about having created it, that stirs up, as you can imagine, a whole host of sides that people can take.
I can see where that would be super, super sensitive. I mean, first off, like Christmas and everything around it, it's a religious holiday. So
exactly
right away, you're in danger of upsetting a whole section of the population.
Right.
Like, no, no.
Right.
You know?
Because if you've created something, then it's not real. And if it's and there is that as well, right? There is the so then there's so there's that element of it. There's the element of, to your point, you know, the Christian nature of the holiday itself, and not wanting to be seen as offending those folks by over commercializing what's accused of being an overly commercial sort of holiday anyway.
Yeah.
And then there's just I'll switch back to us now, so that there's just the hubris that comes with it. And Coca-Cola is a lot of things, including tremendously filled with hubris, but is very sensitive to the idea that people think that the brand and the business, the company, is full of themselves. So for that reason, it became this tightrope that the brand, the Coca-Cola brand, walked and continues to walk for years. And we explore that in the class. The idea that, I mean, just recently there was a Catholic priest in Sicily, I believe, who, in an audience with children, said, Santa Claus doesn't exist. Santa Claus is a creation of the Coca-Cola company, so it's bad and you shouldn't follow it and you shouldn't believe in it. Now, the uproar I mean, so the phone in Atlanta is ringing at the Coca-Cola headquarters.
Oh, yeah.
The phone at the Vatican is ringing. In what other scenario can you imagine corporate phones in Atlanta, Georgia, lighting up, and papal phones in Vatican City lighting up, right? I mean,
anytime that mythical bread phone is ringing is not a good good thing.
Not a good sign. So the company has done a tremendous amount of really delicate, nuanced work to, one, take appropriate credit for the work that was done by Haddon Sundblom in 1931 for the first time, creating a painting, which codified, you know, the Night Before Christmas poem and a lot of the other imagery that pre-existed it. And what Coke would say is that, no, we didn't invent it. We did play a role in popularizing the image, which we just had up on the screen, which exists today because of mass marketing, right? Haddon Sundblom, the artist, was commissioned each year after 1931 to create a new image, and those images and that portfolio then became advertised year after year after year. When television became a thing, you started to be able to see that same image become, you know, real life in a TV ad, and is just been perpetuated over time. What it is more than anything, Matt, is a proof point on the ability of finding a good idea and repeating it and evolving it and repeating it and evolving it over time to give tremendous value to a brand.
Well, that's the neat thing, is that it hasn't changed much from the first time Coke used the image. And it's that whole like consistency that may have led to people just assuming that Coke invented it, despite them clearly. I mean, you go to the Coke website, and you know, we'll post a link in the description, and it's right there. No, based on this, which was based on the poem, which was based on this, right? Because now, granted, that first painting was probably one of the more family-friendly versions of Santa that some may have seen. Because I mean, some versions of Santa Claus were downright fun, And
Oh
so,
yeah, you go back to the 19th century imagery, and is it meant to excite kids or scare kids, right? I mean, there were,
you know what? Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what kind of a kid you were.
right, exactly.
Right? Like, oh, Krampus, great.
Exactly. Yeah, there some of those images are really kind of freaky, a little sort of spooky.
Yeah.
The thing, one of the things you said though that is sort of, there's the conspiracy theory, and then there's the conspiracy theory about the conspiracy theory, right? So the theory that that Coke created it, and Coke going out of its way to say that it didn't. The real sort of conspiracy theorists would say what? They would say, well, of course Coke's going to say that.
Yeah.
Right. Of course they're going to say that they.
You know what? That guy was on their payroll. That's what it was.
Exactly. What do you expect them to say? Yes, we invented it. Yeah. No, they're not going to. Right. So
I would be kind of curious to see the royalties that family may have gotten because of the use of.
Yeah, you're talking about Sunbloom, the artist.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great question. I believe, I can't speak authoritatively on that, but I believe that he was paid annually for the product of producing the painting. But but all the rights to it, right, perpetually are Coca-Cola's. So,
well, that's one of those moments when a business decision, all of a sudden, like the guy who played, the harmonica on like a Beatles song got paid $17 and was like, woo, and it's like,
right. It's a fascinating thing, and it would actually be good to do a class on or create a whole course on, and that is IP, right? Intellectual property, and who owns it, and who can use it. I mean, better than anybody, certainly in the business school. There's a difference between being the person who wrote and recorded a song and the person who currently owns the rights to the song. Right? Oh,
and that's huge right now. I mean, people are selling their catalogs. I mean, David Bowie sold his for I think close to $500,000. I'd like to say, and he's been dead now for 4 years. And but it's true. Whoever owns it. So if you're commissioned to create, this painting of Santa, and you have a contract where it's like it's short-sighted, just give me $200. I mean, because back in 1930, that was a lot of money.
Sure, it's a lot of money, sure.
Right. Yep. But then all of a sudden it's used almost 100 years later. It's still being used.
Right. You don't know what's going to become iconic or what parts you're going to want, right? So you could say, so it's $200, or to use your analogy, or we can give you, a half a point. And you're like, no, I'll just take the $200. Right?
Some people don't get that half a point. It can be worth a lot.
If that was even on the table, right? So I mean, of course, the classic sort of brand example of that is in the book Shoe Dog, about that Phil Knight wrote. It's his autobiography about the early years of Nike. The story of the lady who. They hired somebody from Oregon State, I think, to draw this and to create a logo, and she created the swoosh for which she was paid like $400, right? And eventually ended up working for the business. But there are those sort of moments you don't know, right? And certainly the Sunbloom family or Haddon Sunbloom was an artist, typically not the most business savvy, which is why they're artists, right? And have a different skill set. So. But all those, save a couple of them for which he sort of painted over, all those original images exist, all those paintings, and they're large, exist at the archives at Coke or at the World of Coke, and it's really cool to see. And of course, the way the business has evolved, they've introduced new iconography into their whole seasonal sort of marketing plan. So. You have the polar bears, right? So now the polar bears are a segmentation study, right? Polar bears appealing to teens, young adults, Santa, and the romantic sort of imagery of Santa Claus having a younger appeal, but also appealing to to parents and grandparents and those sorts of things. Well, right, the iconic nature of it. So it's always going, always evolving, always changing on what consumer brands do to leverage that kind of iconography, whether they created it or just using it.
Well, the polar bears alone. I mean, you see a polar bear with a toque or a hat, right? Sorry, I went full Canadian on us.
Yeah, you did.
I'm stuck in strange brew. And you think Coke almost.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's another example of where all of a sudden, just on this Christmas theme,
right,
you know, they have somehow captured not just one iconic image around Christmas. And I don't know why polar bears are some scary animals.
Yeah, they are.
Right?
In real life, one of the most dangerous mammals on the earth.
Yeah, do not go pet a polar bear, right? Or do it, whatever. Just make sure somebody's videoing. But
right.
it's you know, you offer a real polar bear a Coke.
Right. No, it's not going to go. It's not going to go like in the ad. But
no,
and that's
strategy.
That's right.
Not going to pay off.
But that's, you know, part of the thing that makes marketing so fascinating, and why I enjoy it, and why I know you do as well, is the idea of identifying what is the imagery that will elicit the kind of response you want, and then perfecting it over time such that it becomes part of your brand. It's a fascinating world for sure. If you do it right, and it's really hard to do it right. The folks at Coke would tell you that, yeah, Santa's great, we got that right. Polar bear is great, we got that right, but you don't always get it right. I mean,
here's 100 examples of where we missed the mark.
Right.
But that's the thing. I mean, like Santa and Coke, you know, maybe it's part of the colors, the red Coke.
Right.
Sure. I mean, there's other versions of Santa where he's wearing green and everything else, but deliberately, like, oh, this one here, look at how great the Coke bottle looks in his hand.
Right. It's natural. Right? Yeah, just sort of, it's very sort of complimentary. And unless we forget, I mean, the reason to do this is to sell more product. I mean, we talk about this in class just this week, the idea that there are very few things you can do in a consumer product world that allow you to predict with consistency how you're going to do that quarter, that you do that marketing initiative. So, but the one thing you can always count on at Coke is that all other things being equal, you're going to have a good fourth quarter. Yeah. And the reason you're going to have a good fourth quarter is because of that packaging. It's because of, you know, that and the polar bears and the program, the platform that you built around that across all of your beverages. I remember those days. I mean, when we're looking at our number and how close we are to hitting our annual number, and what do we have to do in the fourth quarter in order to hit that number, and there would be this, you would see the rollout of all of the Christmas related stuff, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And the reason for that, Matt, this is just a fascinating sort of consumer research insight, is we're talking, as I said, we're talking about this in class the other day. If any other time of the year, if somebody said, hey, Matt, we're going to go, we're all going to go to the beach, bunch of us, you know, buddies. And so you're responsible for, somebody's going to get beer, somebody's going to get water, somebody's going to bring coolers. You just bring some soda. It's just a random, like, Wednesday in the summer. Right? Yeah. So you're going to go to the grocery store, and what are you going to do? If you're like most consumers, you're going to look for whatever the soda is that's on sale. And if it's Pepsi, you'll buy that. If it's Coke, you'll buy that. If there's a really good deal in your Winn-Dixie and there's Czech Cola, I might just get that because it's just a day. It's just a day, right? Everybody just wants something cold. Yeah. Right. The one time that you don't do that annually is Christmas. Right. So Christmas traditionally, historically, and all of the consumer research that we used to do there pointed to this, is when people buy the good stuff. Yeah. Right. Well, because you're hosting. Right. And it says, I mean, there's a whole different level from being at the beach, right, with friends of your same age, to having all your family and everybody come over. It's like, no, I can't have Fanta, or not Fanta. You can have Fanta. What is it that Juggalos drink? Dang it. They have, you know, one of those Michigan-based sodas that's really cheap. No, you're not going to show up with Dr. Thunder. Right. No? You're not right. You're not going to have the store brand. That's sort of, everybody's in their Sunday best. You've got the Christmas carols going on the stereo. Everybody's bringing the good food. The fireplace is going. The Christmas tree is lit. There's piled up presents underneath. You're not going to roll out the Czech Cola. you're going to want, like, if you're the one that got sent to the grocery store, as I usually was when I was a kid, and even, you know, into adulthood, you say, oh, I'm going to need some Coke and some Coke Zero. Get the Santa bottles. Get the Santa. Make sure you get the ones with Santa on them, right? I mean, and that was just a guaranteed thing, right? So the ability to own, quote unquote, a holiday.
Yeah.
You know, when people are going to be paying premium prices for things and doing it predictably over time, because you built this ownable, believe it or not, sort of platform, so ownable that people accuse you of having created it.
Well, that's when you know you've done it right.
Exactly. It's a really rare thing that, and our mantra was just keep going back to that well until there's nothing left, you know, so
well,
and expand on it and grow.
It's not like they haven't, I mean, it's not like they just stuck with one very singular thing. I mean, they'll do gimmicks where the boxes will be different, and you know, the cans will have, one will have snowflakes, one will have Christmas ornaments or whatever, where people like, you know, and I remember people, and you have a collection of Coke cans in your office that are Marvel themed, where people would sit there and have the special, well, I have to keep one.
Right. And that's
and well, they got a new one out this year.
Right. And that's another, it seems so obvious, but it's another powerful key insight into packaging, right? Which is a function of marketing.
Yeah.
And you saw this, a subject for another podcast is the summer promotion for years that had people's names on the bottles. And some of the insights that caused that to happen. But the obvious business opportunity is exactly what you just said, which is the collectability of the package tends to lend to a double purchase. So in other words, I'm going to buy the Coke that I'm going to consume, but the one that is in this special package, I'm going to want to keep pristine. I'm not going to consume it. So you essentially have bought 2 cans, bottles, 6 packs, of which you're only going to consume 1. And that's an incremental purchase beyond what you would otherwise have purchased if you were just thirsty, right? So you multiply that times 50 million, you know, and you've got a nice piece of incremental business.
Yeah, and all of a sudden people are smiling because they nailed their 4th quarter goals.
Exactly.
Look at this, we did it again.
Exactly. But in order to do that, I mean, it sounds sort of crass and cynical, but in order to do that, you have to have created such a relationship with your consumer that is valuable to them. I mean, they see that the amount of homes that I was invited into over the course of 30 years, and brought into a room where people displayed with great pride all of their Coca-Cola memorabilia, all of their Coca-Cola bottles and cans and commemorative packages, great pride. And that's right. I mean, that's,
well, and you got to give Coke that. I mean, traveling, I'll stop into a random restaurant and they'll have like a Coke wall.
Right. Sure. Right.
Like,
right.
All right. I mean, you know,
yeah,
you just don't really see that with other brands.
No, you don't.
Where they almost, before Kiss, they went the Kiss route and branded everything they could.
Right.
So trucks, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah. Right. Some of the first coupons ever created were Coke coupons.
Really?
Calendars, bottle openers, all those sort of extemporaneous sort of things that stores and restaurants and pharmacies and things would just have hanging.
Yeah.
It's the reason why if you drive down any country road in America and you see an old diner, you see an old a gas station, you see an old, you know, convenience store, particularly those sort of old independent stores, you see the name, you see the sign for the store, and you see a Coca-Cola sort of logo above it or below it. And that was just a genius sort of thing from the early 20th century where the local sales guys would say, hey, here's a business, you need a new sign. We'll provide the sign. You know, we will give you the sign and we'll put your name on it and your business on it and whatever you want to call it. and we'll just put a Coke logo below it. We'll put we'll put the Arden Square or the Spencerian script, those sorts of things below it, and we'll give you the sign free. Now, what smart business person is going to go, wow, I'm saving the cost of a sign. And then there's the idea that over time, that having the Coke sign portion of your sign gave you business legitimacy.
Yeah.
Right. Suddenly you were for real because you had a Coke sign.
Yeah. Well, Coke wouldn't have done this if it wasn't a legitimate business.
Right. Just fascinating, the kind of things that come from that. And then those signs, to circle back, those signs then become collectible in and of themselves.
Oh yeah. Go to any flea market or anything, big gathering, and you're gonna find people selling those old things. Wow, this is honestly like I never thought I'd be interested in how Coke actually helped push. They didn't invent, but they pushed the modern Santa just through advertising and marketing.
Yeah. I think
it's the one that stuck.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's fair to say that they sort of codified, right? Yeah. They brought together all of the elements that were out there in a way that was compelling and easy to understand, would harken back to the pieces that people had heard and understood, and sort of polished it up into an idealized image that they could use to help sell their products. I mean, that's, and it's, and the reason it's been successful is that it's 2021 and we're talking about it, to your point, 90 years later. 2022, sorry, that's right.
21 felt pretty long, so I don't blame you.
Right, I haven't had to write it that many times, so
but that's another thing most people forget. We don't really write the year anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Back in the old days, kids, when we used to have to write these things called checks.
You wrote it all the time.
You would curse the whole month of January because you wrote 21 or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. Now it's just like, well, I don't know. What month is it? I don't know.
What year is it? Right. Nobody knows anything anymore.
No. But this was really fascinating. I like how then the students, anybody wants to get more of this, obviously next time that he offers Soda Pop Culture, I encourage you to go ahead and take his course or any of Professor Williamson's courses. Feel free to take any of mine, right?
Yep. Right.
Shameless plug.
The elements are the same though, aren't they? I mean, in hospitality marketing and all the other, marketing is marketing. It's just, you need to learn the tools and then apply them to the industry, to the pursuit that is the most interesting to you. So
without that Coke bottle, it wouldn't have worked for Coke at all. It would have just been Santa up there.
Right.
I hate when I watch a commercial and I have no clue what the hell it's about.
Which you see a lot more nowadays, right?
Yeah, and all of a sudden it's like Wrangler jeans, and I'm like,
how was that Wrangler? Right?
Nobody was
and that's when like, because the older I get, the more that happens to me, and that's when I think one of two things is happening. Either it's not effective marketing, or you're not supposed to get it. Right?
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not.
Meaning you're not the audience, right? Which and
we didn't nail it.
And as we get older, we are decreasingly the audience, Matthew. But no, this has been fun. I've enjoyed doing it, and we've got a lot other subjects to talk about over the course of this class, and we will be exploring them all and doing podcasts just like this. So thanks for the opportunity, man. This is fun.
Likewise. Talk to you next week.
All right, man.
Bye.